Hello and welcome to a new episode of Constructing Kingdoms with the Violet Howler, a literary analysis of the Kingdom Hearts story. Today we're going to be talking about a character who the fandom can almost unanimously agree could have been treated better by the narrative, yet are heavily split over how that problem should be corrected. I speak, of course, about Kairi. Despite being part of a trio with Sora and Riku, and Nomura having originally planned to make her playable from the start, Kairi doesn't really have many active contributions to the overall plot of the series. Most of her involvement in the story relies on her being a passive force who motivates others rather than physically doing anything herself, especially because most of her appearances involve her being comatose and/or kidnapped. The secret ending of Dream Drop Distance hinted at this changing, with her being brought to the mysterious tower to be trained in the use of her new Keyblade, but this potential was ultimately not realized in Kingdom Hearts 3. She spends the whole game training off-screen, only to get 3 serious fights in before she's captured, and then basically killed before being resurrected off-screen at the end of the game. Fans celebrated when the Remind DLC made her an optional playable character for the chapter's last boss fight against the replica Xehanort, only to do a 180 when the Limit Cut episode immediately put her into a year-long self-induced coma. Then Melody of Memory showed Kairi holding her own against an illusion of Xehanort inside her heart, only for Sora to take her place in the actual boss battle, and for the game to end with Kairi deciding that she needs more training while Riku goes to Quadratum alone. But a lot of the ideas I've seen the general fanbase express about how the writers can get her out of this rut and realize her full potential are not consistent with her established character traits or the story's overall themes. So I wanted to take a look at the details that the series has established about Kairi's motivations and character arc, as well as what role she plays within the context of the series' coming-of-age narrative. As I've mentioned in previous videos, one of the handful of things that series director Tetsuya Nomura has described about Kairi's character is her anxiety over the possibility of Sora and Riku drifting apart from her as they all get older. While we get few moments of direct reflection from her, even less in the official English releases, we do see small moments of her interactions with other characters that demonstrate how much this motivates her decisions throughout the series. Right during her first scene in the original game, Kairi's response to Sora's question about if she ever wants to go back to her original world indicates that she's happy with the life she has on Destiny Islands and doesn't want to give that up, although she wouldn't mind a brief visit to see where she came from. Just a few scenes later, she specifically notes that Riku has changed, and wraps up the conversation by telling Sora not to change himself. Near the end of Kingdom Hearts 2, when Roxas and Naminé temporarily emerge for a one-on-one conversation, and Roxas says that the two of them will be together whenever Sora and Kairi are, Kairi turns to Sora and asks him for confirmation that they'll be together every day. Her first scene in Kingdom Hearts 3 starts with her writing a letter to Sora that she admits she has no intention of ever sending. She tells Lea that she's writing it for herself, saying she just likes talking to Sora even if it's on paper. But in her letter, she reiterates that sentiment of not wanting Sora to change by saying, "I hope you'll remain the happy and cheerful Sora I know." Later in the game, she refers to the Paopu fruit she and Sora have near the game's climax as a good luck charm to ensure that they'll never be separated. Which contrasts with how Sora interprets the Paopu sharing as a sign that they'll always be connected even when they're not physically together. All of these details combine to paint a very detailed picture of Kairi's motivations. She's holding on to a nostalgic ideal of her childhood on Destiny Islands and the friends that she's made there, and she doesn't want anything to threaten that. Which is understandable when you consider what we know about her backstory prior to her arrival on the islands as a 5-year-old. A mad scientist ripped her away from the only family and home she'd ever known and tossed her out into the cosmos as an experiment, and she washes up alone in an unfamiliar place. So in that context, it's almost certain that she latched onto her new friendship with Sora and Riku as a source of comfort and security during what was practically guaranteed to have been a traumatic period of upheaval and uncertainty. She's essentially doing the same thing I've noted in previous episodes that Sora is doing when it comes to avoiding the hurt and other negative emotions in his heart. Like Data Naminé described in Recoded, painful memories handled the wrong way can damage or even break a person's heart. So by pouring all of her energy into her friendships with the people who first brought her a sense of peace and comfort after the traumatic upheaval of being torn away from Radiant Garden, Kairi avoids dealing with that pain and damage to her heart altogether. But just like how Sora's refusal to unpack and address his own negative emotions cuts him off from using his empathy to its full extent, Kairi's reluctance to accept change and her fear of being left behind is holding her back from achieving her full potential, as both a Keyblade wielder and as a person. She hasn't been able to catch up to Sora and Riku because her fear of change and her desire to cling to the status quo is undercutting her growth. From a metaphorical standpoint, Sora and Riku have learned and grown over the course of their adventures, while Kairi is trapped in childhood of her own volition, keeping herself frozen in time as much as possible even as she fears being left behind. In the context of a coming-of-age narrative, Kairi's fear of change and desire for things to stay the same forever represents the childhood desire to never grow up, and the journey of learning to accept change and growing up as natural parts of life. It contrasts with how Riku's urgent desire to leave the islands at all costs marks him as an example of the kid who's in a rush to grow up and doesn't appreciate the chance he got to be a kid until the harshness of his experiences forces him to grow up faster than his peers. This is further underlined by the connections the series has drawn between Kairi and 3 specific Disney characters. Because examining her through this context adds multiple layers of meaning to the fact that her comatose body ended up in Neverland during Kingdom Hearts 1. On one hand, part of Peter Pan's whole thing is that he doesn't grow up and is eternally a child, never aging beyond his perpetual state of immature youth. But on the other hand, Kairi's body was kept in the same cabin as Wendy Darling, whose entire character arc in the animated Disney movie was all about her not wanting to grow up, and realizing through her interactions with Peter Pan and the Lost Boys that being young forever isn't as amazing as she imagined it would be. Meanwhile, subsequent games create parallels between Kairi and Winnie the Pooh, who is largely a static character that is usually associated with childlike innocence. I've already spoken in previous episodes about the connections drawn between Kairi and Pooh in Kingdom Hearts 3, but the parallels present in Kingdom Hearts 2 serve to reinforce Kairi's motivation of not wanting to grow up through its references to a very specific direct-to-video Pooh movie. Just like how Kairi had forgotten Sora as a result of Naminé's tampering with his memories and could only remember him as the restoration was nearing completion, Pooh spends most of Kingdom Hearts 2 with amnesia due to the pages being tampered with by the Heartless, and incapable of remembering Sora until his memories of all his other friends have been restored. Notably, when Pooh starts to remember the existence of Sora but isn't able to link his name or face to the memories, he goes looking for his forgotten friend in a location known as the Spooky Cave. When Sora and the gang finally find Pooh in the center of the cave, Pooh's friends, with the help of his growling stomach, help Pooh to fully remember Sora at last. This particular area is based on the Skull Cave featured in the 1996 movie Pooh's Grand Adventure: The Search for Christopher Robin, a movie where Pooh goes on an epic quest in the belief that his friend has been kidnapped by a monster, only to learn at the end that he was just away at school for the day. At the beginning of the movie, Pooh believes that he and Christopher Robin will be able to spend every day together, refusing to entertain the possibility that this won't last forever. He even gets a whole musical number about it as Christopher Robin tries to work up the courage to tell Pooh that he's starting school tomorrow and can't spend the whole day playing together anymore. As Pooh falls asleep that evening, Christopher Robin gives Pooh some parting advice that helps each of the other characters on their journey, ending with an assurance that even when they're apart, he'll always be with Pooh in spirit. And after a perilous adventure that forces the main characters to confront their flaws and insecurities, Pooh finally learns to accept that Christopher Robin can't be around all the time anymore. And doesn't Christopher Robin's message sound familiar?
Even if we are apart, I'll always be with you.
Even if we're apart, we're not alone anymore.
All of these details taken together serve to emphasize that the main endpoint of Kairi's arc and overcoming her fear of change is learning to accept that she doesn't have to be around Sora and Riku every single day in order to still be friends. And that sometimes, as friends grow up, life will take you in different directions based on interests, career paths, and even just general circumstances, but that doesn't mean that they'll stop caring about you. This kind of theme comes up in lots of different stories, both coming-of-age narratives and others, and we see more hints of it throughout the prologue of Kingdom Hearts 2. In the virtual Twilight Town, Hayner talks about how he, Olette, Pence, and Roxas won't be able to all stay together forever, and that they have to make the most of the time they have while it lasts. On the level of the individual game, this is hinting at Roxas' separation from his fake life in the simulated Twilight Town as Sora's memories are being restored. Yet on the macro level, we have yet to see this theme explored to its full extent. And all of this material about Kairi and her fear of change points toward her arc being where we see the seeds of this narrative thread finally bear fruit in the overarching narrative of the series. And a big part of her internalizing this will more than likely involve her learning to stop trying to mold herself to be like Sora and Riku and discover who she is beyond her connection to them. Because when you look at Kingdom Hearts 3 and its supplementary material, Kairi is sacrificing a lot of herself in order to hold on to her childhood friendships. She's realized that Sora and Riku have changed and that things are never going back to how they were on the islands back before Kingdom Hearts 1. So she's trying to change herself to be like Sora and Riku are now in the hopes of keeping the three of them together as a trio. In the process, she's doing exactly what Sora is doing in the framework of the heroine's journey and suppressing parts of who she is in pursuit of external validation. And this is best visualized through her battle stances. In Dream Drop Distance and the opening cinematic of Kingdom Hearts 3, Kairi is depicted in a completely different battle stance than the one she uses in Kingdom Hearts 3 proper. And it's easier to see in the official character renders, but if you look closely, you'll notice that in Kingdom Hearts 3 and Melody of Memory, she's positioning her feet and holding her Keyblade the exact same way that Sora does. And when you take into account other details in the game, its supplemental material, and even past titles, this is clearly intentional. The only description we have regarding the actual details of what Kairi's training under Merlin in Kingdom Hearts 3 involved was her and Lea repeatedly sparring with each other, which was exactly how Sora and Riku were such quick studies when they obtained their Keyblades in Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2. We see through various prequel content and flashbacks across the series that Sora and Riku raced each other and sparred with toy swords constantly growing up, which meant that they didn't need much training in the physical aspects of wielding a Keyblade. So Kairi was not just copying the way that Sora fought, but the way he learned to fight. And it isn't only Sora that she's imitating. The novel adaptation of Kingdom Hearts 3 features an interlude chapter that shows Kairi's perspective as she prepares to cut her hair after receiving her new outfit, an event that happened entirely off-screen in the actual game. In the novel, Kairi notes that Riku cut his hair between the end of Kingdom Hearts 2 and the beginning of Dream Drop Distance, and wonders if Sora prefers long hair or short before making the decision to give herself a haircut. I am aware that the novels are not the same level of canon as the games themselves, however, author Tomoko Kanamaki was hired to help write one of the actual games, specifically because of how well she understood the story. And on multiple occasions, the novels have presented scenes and ideas years before they were explicitly addressed in the actual games. Like the Kingdom Hearts 2 novels directly hinting at nobodies being able to grow new hearts more than 5 years before the big reveal in Dream Drop Distance. Which gives the material she writes in both the novels and other supplementary Kingdom Hearts content more weight for analyzing the series than something like the cheap Ultimate Handbook that Scholastic released last year, which didn't even get basic character information right. Anyway, it makes complete sense in this light why Kairi's training in Kingdom Hearts 3 failed to make her the epic badass that people wanted her to become. Because the decisions she made in the game were based on what Sora and Riku had done, rather than what actually worked for her. Which is why her decision to train under Aqua feels like it will actually stick, despite the fandom's understandable disappointment and cynicism over how her training turned out in Kingdom Hearts 3. Because only in Melody of Memory was Kairi finally making the decision for herself instead of letting other people make these decisions for her. The decisions she did make, like her hair, were not made out of consideration for what she liked, but rather what she felt would appeal to other people. And this obviously isn't healthy or productive. With how much she tries to mimic Sora and Riku, I honestly question whether Kairi even knows who she is outside of her connection to them anymore. Which is why her training with Aqua has the setup to be an important step in rediscovering who she is beyond her relationship to Sora and Riku. Her training under Merlin was hindered by the fact that not only was she learning fighting and magic the way that Sora had, rather than in a way that worked for her strengths, but she was learning from someone whose last chronological on-screen teaching experience was Sora himself. While Aqua obviously knows and has fought alongside Sora and Riku, she doesn't have the same level of familiarity with them that characters like Merlin do. So being Aqua's apprentice will allow Kairi enough distance to step outside of Sora's shadow and figure out how to be herself. And in order to do this while keeping with the coming-of-age themes of the series' narrative, she'll have to ultimately confront her past in Radiant Garden, like a descent into the underworld on her own heroine's journey. The Xehanort who appears as the final boss in Melody of Memory is stated to be a construct of Kairi's heart, who tells her that the answers she seeks lie in memories that have been lost. But this doesn't mean that her memories are lost in the sense that they're gone forever. and the fact that she can even remember him sending her off to Destiny Islands via the Ark as a child proves it. A consistent element of Kingdom Hearts is that while the connections between them can be severed and rearranged, memories are never truly gone forever. Naminé is able to restore Sora's memories and those of everyone he met in Kingdom Hearts 1 after rewriting them, after all, and Isa, Lee, and Roxas all regain their memories of Xion in Kingdom Hearts 3. This has to do with how Chain of Memories establishes that memories in Kingdom Hearts lore are at least partially stored in the heart. Even if a time traveler like young Xehanort or Maleficent forgets their experiences in another era, the things they experienced are still imprinted onto their heart. The memories are still there, even if the links that allow the person to recall the information are disconnected from their conscious thoughts. What the mind forgets, the heart remembers. And it's telling that the flashback Kairi experiences in Melody of Memory is triggered by looking at her own reflection in the final world, as mirrors and reflections are commonly used in fiction to symbolize introspection and examining yourself. In order to completely figure herself out, Kairi needs to unpack the forgotten memories of her early childhood in Radiant Garden, and the hurt that's more than likely associated with those memories. In Chain of Memories, Naminé talked about how remembering one person or thing will restore the links between the memories in Sora's heart that Naminé herself is unable to reach. Kingdom Hearts 3 and Melody of Memory both calling attention to the fact that Kairi doesn't remember her encounter with Aqua in Birth by Sleep suggests that Kairi will regain her memories of her past in a similar manner. The training under Aqua will prompt Kairi to remember their prior meeting, which will in turn begin to call back the memories of her life before Destiny Islands that Xehanort in Melody of Memory claimed were long gone. While it's too soon for me to feel confident labeling her arc this way, I can't help but notice how Kairi's scenes in Kingdom Hearts 3 and Melody of Memory line up with the early stages of Schmidt's model for the heroine's journey. Kairi has basically spent the entire series up to Kingdom Hearts 3 stuck in the illusion of the perfect world stage, clinging to the idea that everything could go back to the way it was before. Her decision in Melody of Memory that she needs more training fits with the realization stage as she begins to accept that everything has changed, and that they can't go back to how things used to be. And her decision to stay and train under Aqua while Riku goes to Quadratum feels very much like she's undertaking the awakening and preparing for the journey as she goes on her own quest independent of Sora and Riku. I'll have to wait and see how her training with Aqua goes before forming any conclusions about Kairi being on a heroine's journey arc, but it feels fitting because as a Princess of Heart, Kairi constantly trying to imitate other people in order to hold on to her connections feels like another example of conforming to the expectations of those around you in the hopes of receiving validation. It also fits in with the series' themes of balance between light and darkness, because as I explained in my video on the conflict between light and darkness, the two forces each represent selflessness and selfishness respectively. Too much darkness leads to hurting other people in pursuit of one's own selfish desires, while too much light leads to prioritizing others at the expense of your own needs. And does that not sound like what Kairi has been doing for most of the series? So with Kairi being exclusively associated with light for most of the series, stepping back to focus on herself instead of continuing to try and follow in Sora and Riku's footsteps will force her to turn her focus inward and evaluate her own needs and desires. All this means that if Kairi is truly on her own heroine's journey, then she's going to have to grapple with her own potential for darkness like Riku has and that Sora is about to in order for her to complete her arc. While the first game established her as a Princess of Heart, one of 7 maidens whose hearts are 100% light and incapable of having darkness in them, Kingdom Hearts 3 revealed that this is not a permanent state of being. Yensid revealed that the other Princesses of Heart from the first game have all passed on their pure light to new princesses, meaning that if Kairi does the same, it would involve giving up her status as a pure light, and would leave her vulnerable to the influence of darkness for possibly the first time in her life. And training under Aqua will put her into contact with another character who is also associated with pure light, who also wants to be stronger and hold on to his friendships, and who just so happens to be harboring a hidden darkness inside his heart. Darkness in Union Cross taking advantage of Ven's desires to possess him for its own agenda feels like a foreboding microcosm of what may lie ahead for Kairi. I should point out here that in no way am I saying that Kairi is or will turn evil. What I am suggesting is that since the Remind DLC has revealed that Darkness the Entity is still hiding inside Ven's heart in the present day, Kairi passing on her Princess of Heart mantle may tempt capital D Darkness to start meddling with her the way it meddled with Ven. And even if that doesn't happen, lacking darkness within their own heart does not mean that a person with a heart of pure light can't attract external darkness through their negative emotions, as we see with Cinderella in Birth by Sleep. But regardless of whether that theory pans out or not, Kairi's role in the overall context of the franchise's coming-of-age narrative is still pretty clearly established. Despite her limited screen time, Kairi's characterization and motives consistently represent the desire to cling to the past and a refusal to grow up. The main thread of her character arc and role in the narrative is to demonstrate the message that change and drifting apart from close friends as your interests and responsibilities take you in different directions are normal parts of growing up, and that defining yourself by your relationships with others to the point where your entire life revolves around them with no room to address your own issues only hurts yourself in the long run. But it should be noted that this does not eliminate the possibility of her reconnecting with Sora and Riku again toward the end of the series, just as other trios have been shown doing in recent games or are set up to do in the future. As Jack Sparrow expressed during Kingdom Hearts 3 and then demonstrated with his Chirithy in the ending, it only takes a moment to reconnect with people you care about, even if you haven't seen each other in a long time. Even in coming-of-age narratives that feature the trope of close friends splitting apart as they get older, stories with more optimistic endings will showcase the core group making a concentrated effort to stay in touch and hold on to their connection. But the other trios that manage to get back together in Kingdom Hearts after being separated have demonstrated a mutual desire to do so that is missing from the Destiny Islands trio. But since the series has not reached that point, there's still enough room to build arguments for a few different possible endings for this theme. My main point with this whole video, though, is that despite her limited focus, Kairi still plays an important role in communicating the themes and messages of the franchise's coming-of-age narrative. And while I completely understand why people have given up hope for her to get a proper character arc, I am confident that Melody of Memory's ending marks a definitive shift in gears for the momentum of her growth. Now that she's finally making decisions for herself instead of based on what others would like, she's finally in the right mindset to start looking inward and unpacking the insecurities that are holding her back from reaching the same level of skill and character development as the other major characters in the series. Thank you all so much for watching. If you are interested in more of my literary dissection of the Kingdom Hearts story, feel free to hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you back here again on February 25th for my next video.